Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Thursday, October 13th, around 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 2022. Tonight, we're going to talk about the magnetic excursions in the past and the younger Dryas myth that flash frozen mammoths exist. Your mind's going to be blown. We also have an uptick in Iceland in seismicity, and we'll get to that. And there is snow in the forecast for the Northeast. But the big story, incredibly rare fall monsoon is driving wet weather in California. And it's scary. They may get rain. Keep calm. It's boom time. Let's take a look at the models. Take a look at this little rainy spot here as it spins around and develops and starts to bring some of that wet weather to Southern California. They may not know what's happening, but good news, Arizona's going to be picking up some of the moisture, as well as New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, places that really need the moisture. These places are, many of them, in drought. So good news for the Southwest, as a number 9, take a look at that, is spinning around in the Northeast, and that means a nor'easter, like a beaster, bombing out at 988 on this low pressure, and that means snow is going to be coming. Well, it looks like starts in Manitoba, moves over here to Ontario, and then Quebec. And, well, of course, all of the Northeast states. But take a look at this. Michigan's going to hit. Maybe some snow in Indiana, some snow in Ohio, West Virginia, West PA, upstate New York. Oh, take a look. So, and that system is going to be moving in next weekend on the 15th. Oh, this weekend. Look at that. Friday, Saturday. So look at this. By Friday, you're going to have snow moving down into Minnesota, say it ain't soda, into upper Michigan and Wisconsin. Look at that. So this is your weekend snow. Minnesota, Wisconsin. And by Monday morning for your commute, it's looking like Michigan's going to get hit there. Tuesday is your lose day in the Northeast, Pennsylvania, West Pennsylvania, Indiana. Wednesday and Thursday, look at that event. It's a multi-day event that is going to be, bombing out in the Northeast like a beast. Now, did you hear? Florida was wrecked by Hurricane Ian because Governor Ron DeSantis doesn't believe in climate change. I can't even make this up. And this claim is coming from the New York Times guest essay. Yeah, Florida was wrecked by Hurricane Ian because the governor doesn't believe in climate change. It's a sign of the times. Thunderstorms and rain in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, fire weather in the plains. Strong to severe thunderstorms and heavy to excessive rainfall are expected across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic today and for several other days. Strong winds and dry conditions will result in critical fire weather areas for the northern and central plains today and the central high plains into the central plains tomorrow. There are freeze warnings and frost warnings in Illinois, in Wisconsin, and say it ain't soda, Minnesota. So heads up if you're in those areas, protect your plants. Frost and freeze warnings in southeast Idaho as well, as there will be some winter weather coming to the Northeast soon, like a boom. Now, did you feel it? A 2.0 magnitude earthquake was reported in Skysville, Maryland. That's a rare rumbler. A small earthquake shook parts of Carroll County, Maryland on Tuesday night, according to the USGS. So, Appalachian fault activity is always interesting to note. Now, 65 earthquakes at Mauna Loa in the past 24 hours. We reported on the uptick and the fact that this baby may be about to blow up. We're waiting for a second phase of activity and uplift on the tiltimeters and maybe some increase in SO2 and other gases at the surface. Currently, Mauna Loa has been at yellow advisory status, so stay tuned for more boom. Here is the current advisory color code yellow, and the last observations. HVO detected those 65 small magnitude earthquakes below M3.0. Earthquakes 2 to 3 miles below Makua Mioia caldera and 4.5 miles beneath the upper elevation northwest flank of Mauna Loa. Both of these regions have historically been seismically active during periods of unrest at Mauna Loa, and it hasn't erupted for quite some time and long overdue. So heads up as we slowly witness the re-eruption of Mauna Loa. Seismic update. No quakes of note. Most recent rumbler happening out in the middle of nowhere 4.9 in Russia. Biggest quake of the day, 6.4 in Kokopo, Papua New Guinea. No reports of damage or anything there. It's probably in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, in fact it is. Right out there in the water at a depth of 71 kilometers. So probably didn't affect anyone, and there is no tsunami warning or watch. Take a look at this. A big explosion equivalent to an M2.9 magnitude earthquake. 8 kilometers northeast of Airway Heights, Washington. Could that be some deep military underground base activity, or is it a quarry? Let's take a look at the satellite here and see what's going on there. Shall we? Here is the boom. Taking a while to refresh here, so bear with me. There is definitely, what in the world is there? Huh. Doesn't look like much of a quarry, if it is. And that's as close as we can get to the explosion. Let's see. Only earthquakes on the map. The 2.8 explosion at Airway Heights, Washington. So please, someone, investigate the site. Looks like a quarry with a little bit of rubble there, but this explosion over here is, well, not over there. So, heads up. As we take a look at Iceland, while there is activity happening in the Tyrannus fracture zone once again, there's also activity happening in the Reykjanes volcano. Will it erupt again soon? It could be a boom. Also, there's activity at Grimsvötn and Astja, that little trifecta right there of booms happening at Astja potentially. So something is afoot in Iceland, and the entire island is rumbling. Now the James Webb Telescope finally solves the dusty star mystery. We've shared this photo in the past, and we're just going to reveal how ridiculous the current state of cosmology is with you together. Here we see WR140 at the center of the Dustshells are 2 large stars. Yeah, or maybe not. Now, according to these scientists, they have concluded that the Wolf-Rayet star, where is it? My goodness. They said the shells are dust shells. And I think I might have had this pulled up in a different article because I'm not easily finding it. But according to the scientists, these are dust shells in this very unique type star, which is a WR star, which is Wolf-Rayet. And where is it? Okay, here it is. The shells are dominated by polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, and they are very carbon-rich compounds. You find them on burnt toast and in the exhaust from motor vehicles, per se. PAHs produced by stars are thought to enrich the carbon content throughout the universe. Well, why aren't we taxing the universe, for goodness sakes? Now, this star pattern here is simply an artifact resulting from the telescope's segmented mirror, but explaining these rings as dust shells is as ludicrous as it gets, because we know what those are from the Sapphire Project. Those are double layers. This is very highly self-organizing plasma that is occurring also clearly in space because we can witness it. So this is similar to the orbital shells in a single atom, or a single atom with lots of atomic mass. You're going to get lots of these orbital rings as electrons whirl around the nucleus. And a similar thing is happening with the double layers in highly organized plasma, especially associated with stars. But the mainstream narrative will not budge, even though we have observational evidence and direct empirical evidence, and here a physical experiment proving exactly what we're seeing. If you want to know more about the Sapphire Project, their old website, sapphireproject.com, has been kept up in posterity. Now, this is the original website of the Sapphire Project. It's useful as a historical overview. They have now become Arion, which is an incredible concept at the intersection of energy and matter. The challenge for Ariane is managing radioactive waste in the USA, and it's a $500 billion problem. The worst of that waste lasts from 10,000 to a billion years. But what if there were a technology that could safely neutralize radioactive waste while simultaneously creating clean electricity and rare earth elements? And here you see that picture from the Sapphire chamber with those double layers and that highly organized plasma, not dust shells. Iraq and Uruguay deposit crop seeds at the Arctic Doomsday Vault. Thank goodness, we're going to need them. Svalbard facility is a global backup for gene banks, safeguards biodiversity of crops, and now holds more than 1.2 million seed samples, which we are going to need as we are clearly moving, well, into the next cosmic catastrophe. 6 ancient cities stacked on top of each other reveal thousands of artifacts in China. Take a look at the excavation. Absolutely fantastic. This is a screen grab from Xinhua News Agency's Facebook. Excavations of an ancient Chinese city unearthed large carved stone murals, a bridge, and thousands of other artifacts. Archaeologists announced their findings from 4 years of work at the Zhouqiao relic site in Kaifeng, China, Daily reported, citing a September 28th news release from China's Cultural Heritage Administration. So, tons of interesting finds. Take a look at that. Fantastic. Look at those carvings. What does it mean? Will we ever know? I'll tell you what we do know. A potentially cancer-causing chemical is sprayed on much of America's produce. Even the organic stuff has residual glyphosate as it moves through the same processing areas as all these toxic pesticides end up in. Now, how high is the exposure near you? Well, here's a map on glyphosate usage in the U.S. And if you're in the dark, black, or gray areas, holy macaroni. We are, in fact, in an area where it is negative 0 agricultural purposes pounds per square mile. It's one of the safest counties to live in. So hopefully you're not in the dark zone. All the links to everything we discussed tonight will be below. Neanderthals and modern humans may have copied each other's tools. Now, research suggests, well, not only that, they commingled, if you know what I mean. Researchers suggest species coexisted for more than 1,000 years and uncovers possible exchanges of ideas. This paper just coming out, take a look. Optimal linear estimation models predict 1,400 to 2,900 years of overlap between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals prior to their disappearance during the Lechamp magnetic excursion, which eliminated Neanderthals from the Earth. This paper is just coming out today. Hey. And you'll get it linked below, the full paper. Now, recent fossil discoveries suggest that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens may have coexisted in Europe for as long as 5,000 to 6,000 years. Yet evidence for their contemporaneity at any regional scale remains highly elusive. In France and northern Spain, a region which features some of the latest directly dated Neanderthals in Europe, and it looks like Proto-Araguasian assemblages attributed to Homo sapiens appear to replace Neanderthals associated with the Chateaubriand assemblages. And these are very unique fossils. We're going to do a full expose on these types of stone knives, thought to have been produced by the last Neanderthals in France and then passed on the technology to Homo sapiens in northern Spain. Absolutely mind-blowing, the discoveries happening day after day, as well as the destruction of some fabricated historical archaeology like the Easter Island Moai, and now a fire causing irreparable damage to Moai structures. Well, that's because The ones that are carved out of the soft tuff are just recent replicas of the basaltic versions that have been there on the island for over 12,900 years. The basalt quarry for the original Moai, the ones that we shared in an expose over at Magnetic Reversal News, that quarry is below over 100 feet of ocean water and off the coast, because that quarry was used prior to the Younger Dryas catastrophe when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower. So we will link you to that video at the end of this one. Enjoy. Doorbell cam catches fireball shooting through Seattle. And this is a nice little bolide, in my opinion. We're going to get a couple different views. And this is a plasma discharge event, well, where the charge of the object is different than the charge of the Earth, and it is discharging as it enters. There's a little burning process, could be potentially, but we're going to get to that in more detail, potentially in a future video. Now let's talk about the Younger Dryas myth, about flash frozen mammoths with buttercups in their mouths. You've all heard the story, and you've all been fed the fairy tale that this occurred during the Younger Dryas. Well, now, while during the Younger Dryas catastrophe, there may have been mammoths frozen with buttercups in their mouth, but that is not based on the paleontological data. And as a paleontologist and stratigrapher, I used to teach it to graduate students at the university level in the East Coast back in the 90s. We knew of these stories, and we knew of the dating, and none of them were from the Younger Dryas period. In fact, multiple other specimens have been found. And when we talk about well-preserved mammoth carcasses, we're talking about mammoths that are flash frozen with flesh that is fresh when it is thawed. So it is even being fed to some dogs up in the region. Now, there is over a dozen very well-preserved mammoths found throughout history, starting back in the late 1700s. But many of them are recent. And all of them, most of them have been dated using very good techniques, using pollen or carbon or some technique where we can get very close to a date. And none of them date to the Younger Dryas. Most of them date from 20 to 43,000 years or more. Here's a 45,000 year. Now, the carcass that perpetuated the flash frozen myth was likely the Berezkova mammoth, which was unearthed in 1901, and that's this one right here in Serbia. And that dates to 44,000 plus or minus 3,500, and that could very well be the Lachamp magnetic excursion. So I believe that the flash frozen mammoths, a lot of them are happening around Lachamp time. Here we see another one in Siberia, and another one, Lubia, in Siberia. These are one found in 1977 and one in 2007, and another one within the range of the Lachamp excursion here, 43,000. You picking up what we're putting down? Another one around the Lachamp excursion here. Now, the other ones could be falling into some other magnetic excursions, but none of them are here at the Younger Dryas dip. So what we know about the field strength on Earth, and here we can see the red line, our magnetic field weakening now, dropping down towards that 4 VADM mark. But we did have an excursion 13,000 years ago, 26,000 years ago, the Rockall, the Mauna Lake, 33,000, and the Lachamp at 41. And on this, one of the most recent papers that is literally cataloging all the most recent data on magnetic field strength on Earth shows that the Lachamp is the most extreme since modern times, except the drop-off we're seeing now is very similar to the Younger Dryas drop-off. But there haven't been a regular periodic 12,000-year cyclic magnetic excursion like some people claim. It's quite contrary to that. It's much more random. than it is a set pattern as far as magnetic excursions occur. But we'll get to that over at Magnetic Reversal News maybe later tonight. So join us. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. I hope you got something out of the video. We like to tantalize you with scientific facts presented to the layman that will blow their mind. So if you appreciate what we do, please support the work we do and become a Patreon. We love you. Be safe. And that's a boom.